And we're live again. We've got Graham in the building. Appreciate you for doing this chat. We've got 45 minutes. So if you've got any questions and you want to pick Graham's brains, please get them in ASAP. Unks, how you doing, man?
I'm very well, mate. How are you? Nice to speak to you again. Catching up on Arsenal. We're looking forward to this today. I think we've got quite a lot to discuss at the moment, so it'd be interesting to see what you want to talk about today, DG, because it's been a very difficult last few weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah, and you said it there. And again, in times like this and where there's many a talking point, and it depends, I'm sure you've seen it. Some Arsenal fans are quite negative. It's all doom and gloom now, despite the fact of where we are. Some are choosing to, I feel, be a bit positively naive and not look at maybe the warning signs. So the first thing I'm going to ask you then, Graham, is like, what's the temperature check from you as an Arsenal fan? How are you feeling about the club at this moment in time? Obviously, it feels like a loss, sorry, but we just beat Wolves, finally got a bit of a break to Everton, come out of a cluster of games. Like, where are you at with Arsenal at this moment in time, man? Tell us it all.
I'm still quite positive, to be honest, DG. I think the problem I have with football at the moment is the way the narrative is in the media at the moment. This thing about if it's Arsenal's title to lose, and if Arsenal don't win the league, they're going to be bottlers again. We're only like 15 games into the season. So I think the problem this creates is, for me, DG, is it builds up expectations in the fan base, and people listen to this sort of narrative in social media and on Sky Sports and Talk Sport. And I think it affects the way they go into that game. I mean, I was at the game on Saturday, and the tension in the stadium was there really very early in the once the fans have realised that we weren't going to steamroller them in 20 minutes. And as the game progressed, I thought that transmitted from the terraces to the players. And I think in the end, it became a very difficult night. And I think that has something to do, I think, with, first of all, the expectations that we were going to thrash Wolves, which I can understand. They have only a couple of points, but they were never going to roll over and die like they did for Man United on the Monday. So they came
playing for their lives here as well.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, and they were playing for their lives. You're right. And I thought that people just expected Arsenal just to roll them over. And the way that game started, it was very stop-start. They were deliberately staying down, buying time for fouls, and
Johnson with the goal kicks taking forever. And I don't blame them, because I would do the same.
Yeah, we just couldn't get into any rhythm at the start, and I think that's what affected us at the start. So, but just coming back to, I think that a lot of this narrative around the club at the moment is because we've had a great run, and all teams have blips during the season, because we've slightly started to look less secure in games since the Sunderland result, and because Man City are now starting to pick up points almost like a juggernaut, and Haaland's there, isn't he, at the moment, on fire.
Foden as well. Scary.
Yeah, Foden as well, yeah. So I think that's sort of like got a lot of people thinking negative things about the team. I'm still very positive about the team, because I think what you have to look at is what we've been through over the last few weeks, and that is we had the whole of the back line out injured. The whole of the front line out injured, coming back from the international break before we played Tottenham, Bayern and Chelsea in a week. And now we've got injuries at the back. So we have been dealing with injuries. So having said that, we lost points at Sunderland. We didn't beat 10-man Chelsea. And obviously, the conceding the last minute against Aston Villa was deflating. I'll admit that. But
100%.
We're still top of the table by 2 points, albeit Man City will probably go back in front of us on Saturday. But we go to Everton and we get the chance to reclaim it. I do get the fact that Man City are looking really good at the moment. But, this is a 38-game season. So you say, where am I with Arsenal? I'm still quite positive. I think what I think we need to get back to is we need to get back to the basics. We need to get the players back from injury, get our two centre-backs back, which adds so much to that team, Gabriel and Saliba. Yeah. And I also think we need to get more out of Victor Gyökeres. I mean, for me, that is crucial on the training ground. Getting sort of like routines and training in place where they start working on ways to actually get the best out of him. And I think that is crucial, because we need him to start firing, and I think that'd be crucial the second half of the season. I noticed on Saturday night, there wasn't. I thought we went back to looking a bit like we did last season, too overcoached in the final third. We didn't have enough runners off the ball. There was too much sideway passing. I thought the way he set the team up, because we knew they were going to play a narrow 5-3-2. It's almost like he moved that back line around too much for me. I mean, he should have. I think Lewis Skelly should have played on Saturday night. And that's not just
Tried
the
to play
hindsight.
three at the back, and Ben White had this kind of hybrid position, and Timbers popping up everywhere.
Yeah, I thought what he wanted to do, actually, DJ, you are absolutely right. You nailed it there with the White position. Because he knew they were going to play a narrow 5-3-2, the back, we were building a three, and that three would be the three, Timber, Saliba, and Hincapié would be the three. And White had this role almost like he was going to go roaming wherever he wanted and then try and be like the overlapper on the outside of Saka. I thought that was what his plan was. That's what the why he played White and he left. He didn't bring in Lewis Skelly, because if Lewis Skelly had played on the other side, he would be inverting. So I thought that was the tactics. But I just think Wolves got into the game by slowing it down. It didn't start fast enough. We weren't moving the ball quick enough. We didn't get the early goal. And as a result of that, I thought as the game went on, they got more a grip in the game. And I think it became harder and harder. And the fans started really after about an hour in the stadium. You sensed the fans were almost like not giving up on the team, but it felt like, almost like the last part of the game where they were getting desperate. We weren't going to score. And then, of course, when we scored, I thought the real concern for me is the way defensively they scored against us, because it was very similar to the Sunderland game. It's almost like teams.
And the last one, Villa scored as well.
Yeah, no, so in that Villa game, DG, I thought we defended too deep. Hincapié and Timber should have been 20 yards further up the pitch, in my eyes.
I was critical on them about Wolves, on the team with doing that against Wolves as well.
They dropped. But I don't know if you noticed, what really annoyed me was I just knew they were going to score because we just sat off them. We literally just let them have the ball, no pressing on the ball. And what teams do against us, and this is going to become a habit now, there's two things. Chelsea showed it, Sunderland showed it, and Wolves showed it. The teams are now following a very strict pattern against us. It's to be physical in the game, stay in the game, get to the last 15, 20 minutes, then throw players on, try and create a bit of chaos. Yeah, try and create a bit of chaos, and then try and get an equaliser by staying in the game. And that's what we're up against now. So when we actually have our spells of dominance in the game, not just ball possession, but when we're actually dominating games, we've got to put teams to the sword. And I think really what annoyed me on Saturday night was that I watched Victor Gyökeres make 2 or 3 good runs off defenders, and we didn't use that. And the one thing I think he could have done better was that cross by Saka where he fired it across the box. I don't know what you thought. I thought you might get onto that.
I'm with you.
But generally we're not using him, and it's almost like we had partnerships in the team early in the season. Those partnerships are no longer there. It's too much. We're trying to pass the ball to death at the moment, and as a result of that, players are not running off the ball, and we're struggling to create. And I thought Saturday night we didn't have enough technicians on the pitch at the start. We brought the technicians on second half. Marino and Odegaard come on, but by then the game was really set. But it is a bit of a worry. But you're always going to have blips in a season. You're not going to roll for a 38-game season, particularly after you've had a lot of injuries and everything to be perfect. And I think it's the case of, at the moment, people are starting to see the negative in the fact that Arsenal dropped a few points, the fact that Man City had now gone on a roll. But, things can change in football quite quickly. So I remain positive. And I think we just need to get more out of Gyökeres. That's what I think. And
I'm happy you took it on to Gyökeres, because what do you make of Gyökeres? Both, you alluded to it in the game. What have you made of his time so far? Because I think it's a twofold. I think some people say, he wasn't Arsenal's first choice. I'm not here to debate that. That could be the case. But at some point, he signed for us. So between Gyökeres and Mikel Arteta, you lot thought that you could make this work. I can't see it. The one thing the luxury I'll give Gyökeres is I kind of felt this regardless of who signed up front. I do think he needs to make his own luck, but you've got the statistics and the eye test show you this is a limited striker with great limitations. You put him in areas, he'll thrive. He'll put the ball into the box. You put the ball into the box, he'll bag. I think his anticipation skills could get better. Obviously, still adapting to the Premier League. Like you mentioned it, that ball Saka's put in, maybe in the Portuguese league, the time you arrived, you get on the end of it. In the Prem, I don't want to be cliche, but it's got to happen 10, 13 seconds quicker. And Arteta has spoken about finding Gyökeres a bit more, but I don't know, man. This is why I wanted to ask you, like, what have you made of Gyökeres' time so far? Like, how do we get the best out of him? Like, do you even think there's light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, I think there is light at the end of the tunnel, but looking at the evidence, what we're seeing in front of us at the moment, I can understand why you think like you do and why Arsenal fans are having their doubts. I think the disappointing thing for me, the disappointing thing for me, DJ, was he just started looked like he was getting going. He scored the 2 goals against Madrid, and he scored against Burnley, and then he picked up the injury. He'd got 3 goals in 2 games. I think he's got 6 this season, 4 in the league and 2 in Europe. But he just looked like he was turning a corner and getting going, and the injury come at the worst possible time. Now you could argue, sorry mate, you could argue that, and a lot of people I've heard it said that he doesn't fit our system, and we shouldn't have to change our system to suit him. I've heard that argument once or twice, and that's why a lot of people preferred Sesko, wasn't it? Because they felt that he was more the hold-up player, more Havertz type player. But remember, we have got Havertz to come back. But I just think with him in the team, I think what the things you need to do, we can do those things without changing our style, and that is when he makes a run off a defender and he makes that run, try and hit him with the through ball when he's running off a defender.
Haaland for international level. Obviously, I'm not comparing Gyökeres and Haaland, but they're kind of similar in that they're not really the best individually. Put them behind, they want to score goals. So we've got the capabilities. Eze earlier in the season was trying to find Gyökeres, so that he can thrive in the system. And I actually like the fact that he isn't on paper an Arteta striker, because we've been calling for Arteta to do things differently. You've got a different player now. It presents you with such.
Absolutely. And I was at the Nottingham Forest game when we started the second half with the ball down the line to Eze, and he got the cross over, and Gyökeres made that run across the defender and tapped in at the far post. And there have been other signs in the Leeds game where Calafiori found him with a ball over the top into space in the left wing position, found him in space, running onto a ball where he could cut inside and get a shot away and score. So that shows you what he can do, and that's what, in my eyes, we need to use him. I just think Saka and Eze, whoever's playing on that left-hand side, need to start working on getting balls into the box and get him moving off his defender and try and get on the end of those balls. They don't necessarily always have to be balls in the air. It can be like, balls across the front of a defender, sort of like the way Saka did on that delivery on Saturday night. I want to see more of that. And I want to see him really working on with the team on the training ground to try and use, execute that move, because I think he will be really good at that.
Crucial.
Yeah, and I think that what it looks like to a lot of fans at the moment is City have got Haaland, and we've got Gyökeres. Haaland's scoring, Gyökeres isn't, and that's going to be the difference. That City game on Sunday was, I've seen so many of those type of City games where the opposition, they have 20 minutes, dominate, miss absolute golden chances. Yeah, that can't finish their dinner, as you said. And then first chance Haaland gets, he's hardly been in the game, and then he heads in across and they're 1-up and they're on their way. I've seen that so often. But I just think we have got a predatory forward, albeit a lot of his goals were in the Portuguese league. We just need to, I think, get the ball to him quicker and start putting crosses into the box to him and start working on that on the training ground. That will be my answer.
I think you're bang on the money. I think he's doing all the other things well, like that we need from a striker. You're dropping deep, you're occupying centre halves, you're acting like a bulldozer and battering ram that other people are thriving for. I just think, like everything you said, do you think he needs to make his own luck though? Because I know how difficult it is. It's easier said than done. You're playing against low blocks. Do you think he needs to be a bit more demanding or kind of force the issue? Maybe have a shot, whether it goes into Rose or whatever. Maybe be a bit demanding of his teammates, because I know he's got it in him, but I do think he's a bit nice. I understand he's coming back from injury and, he's adapting to life at Arsenal. And we all know strikers are a bit weird. They score 2 weeks in a row. They feel like they're Superman. They don't score for 2 weeks in a row. They're demi-downers. Like, do you think within the contexts of what he can control, he could probably force the issue a bit more? Or is it just, we need to just do a bit more for him?
No, I think that's a fair point. I think he does need to be a bit more ruthless, and he does need to take on a few more things himself. The only thing that worries me at the moment is I watched this on Saturday night, and I don't know if you felt this. We just looked a bit too overcoached in the final third again, as though the fair players weren't being showing the flair that they were early in the season. Taking it upon themselves to get into the pockets and try and sort of
it was like the handbrake's gone back up.
Yeah, the handbrake's come back up. In effect, we looked again at Arteta had set out, we're going to be patient against this team. They're going to sit in a narrow 5-3-2 block, and we're just going to patiently build up, and it'll come. Whereas we stopped doing the things where players take it on their own to do things instinctively, like early in the season, Eze against Tottenham, finding space in the pockets to get his shots off to score those goals.
Newcastle away as well.
Newcastle away, we were brilliant that day, the way we moved the ball around quickly. I think we've gone back to having not enough running off the ball, as I say, and not moving the ball quicker enough. We've still got those long periods of dominance on the ball. We're just not making it count, and that's my worry at the moment. But in answer to your question, yes, I think he should. Maybe it's because he's at a new club. Maybe it's because Arteta's demanding that he plays in a certain way. I don't know, but I'd like to see him be a bit more selfish and ruthless, because that's what all good forwards are.
Exactly. And like respectfully, I think if a striker's nice, you're kind of in trouble. Like I love Gabriel Jesus, but goal scoring is not a strong point of yours because you're a nice guy. I want my strikers to be a bit more horrible. I'm gonna audit Gyökeres week in, week out. Like I'm gonna praise him where he needs to be praised. I'm gonna get onto him where he needs to, but I'm not gonna write someone off because he's probably 6 months into a 4 or 5 year deal. He wouldn't be the first nor the last player that turns it around, which I think happens. A bit of a question that improv actually as you were speaking, yeah, about like we was talking about the handbrake going up and stuff like that. Do you think that correlates with obviously Gabriel's injury in particular, but the defensive injuries? Because I felt that way against Chelsea. We know Mikel Arteta is big on control. As soon as he loses the ball, what kind of areas we're at, maybe even his approach against Wolves, even though they were going to sit back. Do you think those injuries in defense has made him a bit reluctant to free the shackles of the players in that regards?
I think we've lost with Saliba and Gabriel is exactly what you said, and that's the composure on the ball when we build up from the back. I do feel that. I think it's had a massive effect on the team, not just their defensive ability, but the fact that they're so calm and composed on the ball. Gabriel knocking passes out, really, he's a fine passer. People forget that, with his left foot out wide left. Yeah. And I think Saliba's the one who often comes forward with composure on the ball to start attacks, and even in the game in Europe, he played almost like he moved into midfield in almost like a libero role, didn't he? So
when there was no Zubamendi.
Yeah, so I think yes, that is partly that. But we've still got good players, who, like Zubamendi. We got technicians like Odegaard and Marino who can get on the ball. But clearly we missed something in the build-up and from the back, which might have, I think, maybe whether that's affected the team and made them think about the way they play and build up, I don't know. Maybe it's made them be a bit more cautious, hold on to the ball too long. But they're just taking too many touches at the moment, not moving it quick enough. The only player who's not doing that for me is Saka. He's the one player who stands up week in, week out, who basically he's literally, although he's playing in a team shape, he's just got that individual flair to make something out of nothing. He's the one player. But I think we need more players to be doing that. And I want Eze to get back to what he was displaying a few games ago. Not going to his shell. We shuttled him out wide left the other week against Villa when he was doing so well at 10. But I want to see him get on the ball in the pockets and start dictating. And moving. We've got too many players just when we're building up in this slow build-up shape, recycling. They just stand still. I want to see him moving around more, moving into pockets, demanding the ball. And trying to do something, a bit more risk-free reward, that's what I'd like to see anyway. I mean, look, I understand game stakes. I understand, it depends how the opponents you're up against. I understand why Mikel might want certain tactics in certain games, but I just want to see players a bit more freer in the final third, and that I think will help Gyökeres.
I think you're bang on the money, and the one thing I would say away from Gyökeres is I don't expect it to turn overnight from August to now in terms of our attacking play and breaking down low blocks. But from August to December, I know there's been moments where we've played great football and maybe you could give Arteta the luxury that there has been injuries and the game states, as you said, yeah. But are you concerned that we're still struggling to consistently break down low blocks? And we're still not exactly, a lot of it's on the players, but we're not really that great of a team by our standards in the final third. Like, we all can admit we're a great defensive side, isn't it? Our whole defensive ethos. We know we've got good attackers that can do things, but we're not playing that scintillating football that I believe we've got the capacity to do in some regards. But where do you stand on that?
No, I agree. I think there is a lack of creativity in the team at the moment. I think that's there to see. I think you only have to watch the games over the last few weeks to see that we're not creating. We're not sort of like, and that's the difference between us and Man City, isn't it? As much as they got Haaland, they've got players like Foden who create something, who can create. I know we've got Saka who can do something on our right hand side, but they've got players who I just think that their creativity is a slightly higher level than ours. We're defensively better than them. We've got better fullbacks, better centre halves when they're fit. They've got more attacking nous, I think, and they've got Haaland, who's the X factor. But you are right. We seem to lack a little bit of creativity at the moment. I think Obviously, again, that comes back to the fact that we had a lot of attacking players out for a lot of that time. We're judging this period against. You've got to remember, when we came back from international duty, I'm sorry, mate, my light's gone out. And I just
Mine on, man.
let me just move that around. Hang on.
No worries, man. Gray will be right back. He was in full flow, state flow, as I see on social media at this moment in time. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I apologise for that. And I'm in this room today where the light might go out every 15 minutes.
It's mine, man. Great.
So I apologise to everybody for that. Yeah.
We're just happy to have you and your expertise, but don't worry about the light, my guy.
Yeah, sorry about that. Apologies for that.
No.
Yeah, so just coming back to it, I just think we had those. When you think about when we come back from the international break that week, we had Tottenham, Bayern, and Chelsea in the week. I was thinking we had Gyökeres was still out, coming back from injury. Obviously, he came on a sub at Chelsea. We had no Jesus, we got no Havertz. We had Martinelli out with an injury. He came back in that week as well. Odegaard was just on the verge of coming back. So we played a lot of games without a lot of our attacking players missing. I know we invested in squad depth in the summer, and that has got us through games. Of course, Madueke was coming back from injury as well. So we had a lot of players out. So in that period, I think the team lost a bit of rhythm, because when you got so many good attacking assets unavailable to you, that's going to affect you in your creativity. So, so we are getting these players back now. So basically, you'd hope that over the next few weeks that it gel more. I think the other thing I would say is, I don't know what you feel about this. We've been playing so many games. And just like every other team in the league at the moment, you're seeing at the moment teams are just playing too much football, and I think it's affecting
the quality of football's gone down, man. And it's
and that's and that's because because teams are playing too many games, playing 3 games in 6 days, and also they've got to travel. It's not just playing the games; they're traveling. You've got to have the recovery, then you've got to train again. I think people need to. I just think the product is in danger of diminishing around the fact that these greedy moneymakers want teams to play so many games, and I think that's affecting. Maybe it's affecting us in the way we like to play. Everybody, yeah, you're right. So, but I'd like to think, in answer to your creativity argument, Odegaard's now back. I like to see Odegaard. There is an argument whether you play Odegaard and Eze in the same 11. I can only see that happening if we play 2 10s. You play Odegaard and Eze as 2 10s behind a striker, but I don't think it works with Eze and Odegaard in the team where they're playing in a midfield 3. I think you'd have to change the shape to get them in the team. But, we've got Odegaard coming back now, who offers something on the right-hand side in that triangle with Saka and Timber, or whoever plays on the right back. We got Mourinho, who's a good technical footballer, who's been playing up front, who can drop back into midfield on the left-hand side. And we've got like Havertz coming back in the new year. We've got Jesus, who I think will be a fine addition off the bench. At the moment, I think he could offer something. So we have got our attacking players coming back, and we've got midfielders coming back. You just hope that they get into some sort of form, and that will
stay fit as well.
Stay fit, yeah. Because this season, it's been, I've never known a season. Arsenal has always been known as a team to struggle with injuries, but this season, if he hadn't gone out and strengthened the squad, I think it's amazing that you said, "How are you with Arsenal?" I could answer that question now by saying that we're still top of the league, despite having almost like second most injuries in the season.
Does that scare you as well, Graham? Because obviously, like, we're not physios. Obviously, like, we know that the players and the club and everybody's trying to put players out there in the best vein. But to me, as a novice fan, I think we're in that weird mix where you've got players coming back that are trying to find their feet. Players like Ben White, unfortunately, who's got injured, who now has to get overloaded. Players who are dying for a rest, and that presents an issue in its kind of home. It's like, but we signed more players, and was for some reason or another, whether it's Magalhaes for Brazil or whatever, like got Mascara going down, we still find ourselves in this injury scenario. It's not quite like last season, but it is like, does it make you nervous? And why is it? Like, is it just something we need to accept? Like, this is just something with our club now?
Well, I'm nervous at the moment. Well, I am nervous at the moment because if you look at our back line, Ben White now, because he overplayed him, he didn't have to play him against Wolves. I think he should have. He played 3 90s in a week. I think he should have been rested in that game. But
and Lewis Kelly,
you could, yeah. So White's now
risking Saliba as well. Sorry to cut you, Graham.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're taking risks.
We are. At the back line at the moment, White's now out. Mascara's apparently got a brace on his foot. Saliba and Saliba's back, but Gabriel is still out. So we've got like our first choice, one of our first choice centre backs out, and we've got our backup centre back and our backup right back out. And obviously Calafiori, I'm expecting him to get injured soon because basically,
unfortunately,
he's had a lot of injuries since he's been at the club. But yeah, so it does worry me. It worries me about the fact that I think we got such a great defence, but we're not able now to get that great defence on the pitch. I mean, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori, is a great backline. When you look at what Man City got, they play two midfielders in their fullback positions in Nunes and O'Reilly, and then Guardiola and Diaz are the centre backs. So a reasonable standard, but there's no doubt that we've got the better, stronger backline than them. When we put our first choice, even when we maybe have to play with one of our backline missing, we have got a very strong defence, and that's why early in the season we got to where we got. So if we're not going to have that now, my worry is in this very tricky period, because we got Everton away, but the really difficult week for me is going to be Brighton and Aston Villa. That Aston Villa game is massive on the 30th, absolutely massive. And we really want our strongest backline. Yeah, we want our strongest backline available for that. The injuries at the backline are starting to worry me more than anything at the moment.
I want to ask you as well, what have you made of Hincapié? Because obviously he's got a bit of a run in the side, and we're speaking about the back line. I think he plays too many people. I think twice he's played everybody on side. I won't just necessarily blame him. I think that's relationship building between the centre halves, and it's stuff like that. I think we miss Magalhaes beyond the obvious. But what do you make of Hincapié so far?
I think you raise a really good point. I think sometimes he defends too deep. I think
exactly that.
And there's been situations in games where he's played. I'm pretty sure he played somebody on in that Villa first goal. I may be wrong, but he was too deep. And then in the second game, he was him and Timber between them, because I suppose they take their positioning from each other, and maybe Hincapié was the one, because he's the actual natural centre half, more natural centre half than Timber, maybe, although Timber does play centre half sometimes for the Dutch national team. Yeah. So, but I just think he was too deep then. I think he's a good defender. He's got great pace. That's his strength. I don't think he's been bad since he's come in the team, but he's not at the level of Gabriel, and you see that straight away. The calmness and the composure on the ball, the ability to know when to, he's Gabriel's got that ability to head the ball out that he hasn't got, and also his position. I think Gabriel's better at pushing the team up the pitch. So I think we missed those certain things. He doesn't offer us what Gabriel does, I'll be honest with you, when I watched it. Yet on Saturday, he moved more to the left back position, didn't he? Although he moved back inside when he was sort of like playing a role when we attacked. He was he was part of a back three, more pushing in to allow White to go forward. But generally, he was the left back, and he has played left back for Leverkusen. I noticed a few games last season, I see him. He was really rapid on the outside of defenders to get crosses in. Overall, I think he's been okay, but not at the level of Gabriel. And I think generally, it's no real criticism of him, because he's coming in to replace a top class defender in Gabriel, a leader. And somebody who's just one of the best centre-backs in the league, if not the best in my eyes. So, I've been okay with him, but I see weaknesses in his game, and he's made mistakes, unfortunately.
You know what? Before we signed him, and granted, I'm watching Arsenal a lot more than I watch Leverkusen, so naturally he's going to be under more of a microscope. I did think it shocked me that he's 23, because I've seen a lot of him. It still kind of shocks me, because he doesn't look his age in an Arsenal shirt. Now, granted, you've come into a team that's a bit out of sorts, a bit out of rhythm, and all those kind of things. You now look like a 23-year-old centre half, if that makes sense. I kind of prefer you at left back, but I do think you've been more good than bad. I like that you're combative. I think all the issues I have around you, they're not concerns, that they can kind of be polished. Before I forget, then I have to ask you about, I know he's injured, but what did you make of Benjamin White's kind of brief return in the run of games in an Arsenal shirt? Because I think he did all right, man.
Yeah, he looked fine.
Just a shame.
It's just the problem is I think that he just got overplayed. And the one thing I loved about him was he's very much a team player, and he was unselfishly driving up the pitch to get on the outside of Saka on a number of occasions when we attacked. He was getting back, making tackles. He reminded me of certain parts of his game when he was at his peak a couple of years ago before the injury. I mean, that one season, even then he played through injuries in that season for the team. But I just think the injuries have caught up with him. So it's going to be hard for him to get back to the absolute level that he had when he was really top class. But I still think the games he's played, I've been perfectly happy with him. He looks perfectly good in that role. But I'm and a lot of people do prefer him there to Timber. I heard one or two people I know. I was quite
Yeah, they
surprised.
do. You know, I
It's
don't
strange, isn't it?
subscribe to that, but yeah.
But I think Timber for me is the complete defender for me. And I love Timber at right back. So, but Ben White is a perfectly adequate replacement and somebody who I've got no problems when he plays. You know, he's a really good professional, a fine fullback in his own right. He's learned that role when he came from Brighton. He was multifunction, could play midfield, play centre back, play right back, and he took that right back on. Saka saw something in him there, and he built that relationship with Saka and Odegaard in that season. And we saw signs of it again when he's come back into the team recently. So, no, I've got no problem with Ben White, DG.
I've got no issue with Ben White apart from when he's not fit. And like you said, we've ran him into the ground. I think Arteta's got to hold that one. I'm not a physio. I've not been a professional physio, but I think anyone that's watched football for a number of years, you knew that one was coming. I think we knew we had to, well, whether we had to or not, I think they risked that. They knew that was going to happen. We know Ben White's probably one of those footballers, like he would literally, if he had no legs, would still tell you he's fine enough to play. As you said, he's been putting his body on the line. Charles has got a question for you, and I don't want them to forget. I don't want us to forget, sorry. I have to ask this. As per me, there are two problems with Victor: defensive separation and shot volume. Given he can work on the former, shot volume is not his problem, but his teammates. What do you say to that, Graham?
So the question is, he sees two problems: the defender separation and shot volume. Given he can work on the former, shot volume is not the problem, but teammates. Yeah, I think that's a really fair point he made in that question. I saw a map in his last two games where you see where Yoker is on the pitch and there's nobody lined up next to him. So I think what we need to do, we need to get someone close to him. I'm a great fan. Clive Palmer, I heard him say this on the afternoon. Big up, Clive. He's the absolute doyen of analysts, on Arsenal. But he made a great point about early in the season we were better when players were playing in pairs across the pitch.
Exactly.
And at the moment we've moved away from like this in the team shape where players playing in pairs. It's more like triangles on the pitch. So I think he needs to have someone close to him. Yoker is when he's someone who he can play off. Not necessarily another forward, but like a number 10 dropping in to work who can work off him or with him. In a two.
I know people don't want to see it, but could it be Kai, Graham?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. We said that Kai could easily come back and play that role, couldn't he? Absolutely. So I think that I'd like to see him shooting more. I think that's a fair point, and I think he can work on those issues that raised in that question. The separation thing is I think, a valid point, and I think also lack of shots is another point. The game against Wolves, he just had that one shot, didn't he? Where basically he showed his strength to hold the defender off to get a shot away in the second half. But I want to see more of that. I want to see him shooting more. I want to see him. What you talked about yourself, being more selfish, and he's got to take the responsibility for getting the goals in this team. I want to see him really sort of taking that on in the chance that he gets over Christmas in the new year. So that's that's a really good point. The question, the guy who raised that question raised. Big up Charles. I get exactly what he's saying, and there are two things I think need to improve.
How far does it go with us not feed? Like, how much is it on the manager? Like, the players not feeding, or if the players not feeding Gyökeres, how much is that on the manager? And the players are also on the pitch. Like, you can see your teammates go find him. How much is it on them? Because maybe I'm being a bit dishonest here, but it does feel like Gabriel Jesus is there 5 minutes. You're finding him a bit quicker. Marino, you're finding him a bit quicker. Maybe you understand them lot a bit more and it's a bit chalk and cheese. But where are you on that? Not that I want to keep going over Gyökeres. It's a chance to speak on it, I guess.
I think the reason why Jesus got more of the ball than Gyökeres when he came on Saturday was two reasons. One, because they're totally two different types of striker.
Exactly.
Gyökeres is one who's looking to run on beyond or occupies a defender, whereas Jesus drops into the space like Havertz does. So if he drops like Mourinho does, if you're dropping in around the midfield, you're going to get more of the ball than a striker who's on the shoulder of the last defender.
Exactly.
So I think, and the other point I want to make is there's been examples this season where an Arsenal player has been driving from midfield and Gyökeres is the pass, but it's almost like they used Gyökeres as the decoy. So
That's some screen. You saw that on against Wolves with Martinelli when he went for Rice, and obviously didn't come to nothing.
Exactly. So they're almost like they're using Gyökeres to take defenders away, more or less, to create a chance for someone else who's probably not as good at putting the ball in the net as what Gyökeres would be if he had that opportunity. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think that's what they need to get away from. Instead of using him as somebody who moves defenders around to create space for other players. And I get that. That's a good manoeuvre to do, a good tactic and the build-up play that can work on occasions. But, you know, like when I watched Odegaard in a game recently where he was running with the ball, Gyökeres made that run straight off the defender. The ball had to go to him straight away and he would have been through. But in other words, Odegaard hang on to the ball, waited for Gyökeres to take the defender away. Then he played in the left-sided attacker who basically then didn't make the most of the chance and he got blocked and the chance was wasted. But, you know, they've got to have a different mentality. Does that come from the manager? Does that come from the players on the pitch? We don't know the answer to that, do we? But if you want to get the best out of Gyökeres, that's got to change. That's got to change, DG.
You're bang on the money. And the one time I will give up on Gyökeres, you know, is if I'm seeing us create a million chances and you're not getting on the end of it. Like I remember, what was it? It would have been, there was a year, I can't for the life of me, across the last 3 years prior to this year, where that kind of happened with Kai Havertz. And you could see like Kai Havertz's head is dropping. When I see Gyökeres do that, that's when I'll really be concerned. But I just want him on the end of things. Like I always said when we signed him in the summer, it's so ugly, it could be beautiful. I like the way he scores goals, the Atletico Madrid goals. I'm not expecting like greatness. And even when he scored against Leeds, do you remember when the little dribble from left to right? I told people that's what Gyökeres can do, but don't take that for gospel because that was a rarity. The sun was shining at the Emirates. Leeds sat off and gave us space. Gyökeres isn't going to have that. And you indirectly touched on it. That's how I feel about Gyökeres. I think you're a collective tool for the attacking individuals to benefit rather than you're doing all of that and you're also bagging. So then it leads me to ask you, like, who is the number one striker at this moment in time? If we assume what is Merino, Gabriel Jesus, Kai Havertz, and obviously Gyökeres, is there a number one or is there just 4 players and we're going to kind of have to just box cleverly across the season?
Well, for me, the number one striker should be Gyökeres. He's the one we bought. But I think in answer to your question, I think Mikel will use all 3. I think it'll be a combination of Gyökeres, Havertz and Jesus. I think Jesus coming back from an injury obviously is not going to probably start many games at the moment, and obviously they're waiting for Havertz to come back. I just think Gyökeres needs to run in the team now, and we need to, and we need to start playing to his qualities, and we need to start improving to give him the opportunity to be what he can be. A lot of people are doubting his, saying the Portuguese league is obviously not the same as the Premier League. I understand that argument, but he's still got qualities, and he's in a team who should be able to create chances for him. So why can't that still happen? You know, and if he's missing lots of sitters and he's not playing well as a result of that, and his confidence is down, I could understand the argument. But all the time he's not getting the opportunity, I think then I just can't see how people can judge him in the way that they're judging him. But in answer to your question, I do think that him and Havertz will be rotated a bit as the season comes on. I see you made a brilliant point earlier, DG. I can see Havertz and Gyökeres working well together in a 2. With Havertz behind Gyökeres, working close to Gyökeres, and then crashing the box. I can see that working. I think that would be a great combination.
The only thing is somebody would have to miss out in it, whether that, well, you could go Eze off the left, but Eze, Odegaard, Zubimendi, the only one I think would have to be there is Rice, because obviously what Rice gives us, someone would have to give it up. And I think Arteta likes to have his cake and eat it. Like he's always going to try and get Kai into the squad, Odegaard into the squad. I'm not quite sure how he feels on Eze. I think he likes him. I think he sees him as a bit of a Swiss Army knife. I think there is games to play Eze out wide and have Odegaard, but I think, like you said earlier, ideally you want one of Rice or Zubimendi and both of them central. And if that can't happen on a consistent basis, then I guess there's a decision to make. I know we're pressed for time here because Graham's got to go in 5 minutes. So if you've got any questions, let them in. But I don't want us to not speak about Everton. How big of a game is that? What sort of game are you expecting? And like, what would be your starting 11 with everything?
Well, first of all, it's an absolutely massive game. And I think we've been dealt a little bit of good fortune in that Njai has gone off to AFCON, so he'll be missing. Dewsbury Hall, I understand, has picked up an injury, so he'll be out. Greedish has got a knock, but I suspect he will play. So they will be missing a few key players. What sort of game I'm expecting? I'm expecting a normal, typical game at where it be Goodison Park, the Dickinson Stadium, whatever they call it now.
Forever going to be Goodison Park to me. But
Goodison, it's a great ground, Goodison. I've been there a couple of times. It's a proper football ground. But the thing is, they will play counter attack. I don't see them. Whenever they play us, they always play only one way, and that's defensively. And they'll have people behind the ball, and they're trying to frustrate us, try and stay in the game as long. I think the game plan against Arsenal has been set now by Sunderland, and that my light's gone again. Just bear with me.
Nah, it's cool, man.
I'll tell you what. To make up, I'll give you an extra 5 minutes, DJ.
No worries, people. So people, I mean, okay, man, it's your light. You didn't pick that, but yeah, you've got an extra 5 minutes, people. So
yeah, extra 5 minutes. The thing is, I'm a poor man. I can't afford much coins in the meter, so I have to keep putting coins in the meter. But no, I think generally coming back to the game, teams now have got this tactic against Arsenal. Basically, is to stay in the game for as long as possible, keep it tight. They give us the ball and frustrate us, and then hope they can catch us on the counter attack or from a set play. Stay in the game for as long as possible, then send the subs on late, maybe a physical striker or something, and then sort of like add a bit of chaos at the end. We've got one or two players missing at the back, and they try and take advantage of that. What we've got to do, we've got to come out with real purpose on Saturday, play fast, quick, and try and get that first goal. So basically, they have to change the way they want to play. What team would I put out? Obviously, it depends on who's fit. The problem is whenever you look at Arsenal teams at the moment available to Arteta, they obviously have got all this sports science where they look at numbers, who's played most minutes, who's fittest, who's done well in training. We don't see all that. We don't know all that. So
not privy to that info.
We're not privy to that information. But I think it should be a Timber at right back. It will be probably Saliba and Kincapié as a centre halves, and it'll probably be Calafiori back as left back. I think Rice and Zubimendi will play. Away from home, I don't mind that so much because it's almost like they can play Rice can either push on or play in a pivot too with Zubimendi, and sometimes Zubimendi might push on and Rice might hold his position. So that, like he did on
Saturday, I'm not going to lie, Mum. It makes me comfortable having Rice where he's supposed to be.
I think away from home, that is definitely the way to go. You want Rice and Zubimendi on the pitch. So that's 7 of the players. Saka will play on the right. I think Gyökeres will play down the middle. And then he's got a decision to make. Left wing, one of Odegaard, Eze, and one of Trossard, Martinelli. That's me. If Trossard is fit, I'd have Trossard.
Yeah, he's the man at the moment.
Because I think he's more of a technician than Martinelli, and also he offers us a bit more calm on the ball. Martinelli's more your player who can play in the space. You can bring him on later when there's more space in behind. Do you know what I would do? I would go with Eze at 10. I'd leave Odegaard on the bench. Odegaard can come on if we need a bit of control second half or we need to change the style we're playing. I would play Eze and Trossard. That would be my 11.
I would go with yours. I do think he's going to go with... I do think Martinelli and Merino start in that front three. I don't know why, but I just think he's going to go with Merino at Goodison Park. And I think, obviously we've all kind of accepted Martinelli for what he is. We know the decision-making and overall development isn't there, but he does give the fullback something to think about going that way. And my first thing with Martinelli is this way, if I'm completely honest with you. I do want Trossard because of what you said. And actually, we're still kind of hand-sided on the right, but the left-hand side looks a lot better with Calafiori, who's one of our players of the season in terms of form. And obviously, Leandro Trossard, the same. So I would go with that. I would say Eze and Odegaard's a toss-up for me because a part of me says, you know what? Do we maintain the press, defensive solidity? Is he going to go with Odegaard? But a part of me wants to go with Eze because I know people can say he can be a bit of a passenger, but he's got the ability to just make something happen. And I want to give these lot something to think about. And I ain't got no statistics to hand. Maybe I'm talking nonsense, but it does, maybe not against Wolves, but it does feel like Eze tries to find Gyökeres. Not saying Odegaard doesn't, but he does try to kind of find him. And I do kind of want to see that. But whatever team goes out there, like I want the 3 points. Like, I would have preferred a great performance against Wolves, and obviously I want a great performance against Everton, but I would have been more like, just get me my 3 points and keep it moving. I think Arsenal fans are impatient in that we need a convincing display and we need the 3 points. But that Goodison Park game is massive when you throw in what you said earlier about Manchester City. I don't want to forget any questions yet, but there was a question here. People keep saying we need to play to his strengths. He's referring to Gyökeres, and pass the ball to him more and change our tactics. But why would we build our team around the worst player in the starting 11? Now, bit disingenuous, but that is something people do say. So what do you say to that, Graham?
Well, that's the counter argument, and I did say earlier when I was discussing Gyökeres is that is the argument against him. That I'm not saying he's the worst player, but basically, why should we change our shape? Well, the reason why. The argument against that is purely simply this: is that basically we chose a player to come into this team knowing what his strengths were. I mean, if we wanted
exactly
if you want a player to fit our system, it had to be someone like a Sesko, that style of player, someone who drops deep and gets involved in build up, and that's the way we play. But I thought this season, and we showed signs of it early in the season, where we wanted to change the way we were playing. So instead of just sort of like building up in our 3-2-5 and passing it around, trying to create the perfect goal, we moved away from that at times this season. With Eze in the team, we were sort of like playing more in transition at times, less passes, getting the ball quicker from back to front, from front to back. Well, from the defence to the attack.
Against Man United away in Newcastle, where even though against United didn't come to nothing.
Well, Newcastle we did, certainly.
Newcastle,
got the ball quicker from the back to the attack, and also playing in transition, more direct balls, playing longer at times instead of more controlled build-up. We've gone back to that controlled build-up, which doesn't really suit Gyökeres. So my answer to his question would be is that I understand that he's entitled to his opinion. If he doesn't think Gyökeres is a good player, that's fine. That's his opinion. The great thing about football is everyone has opinions, and everybody's opinion should be respected. But I think we've got this player, and although we still can play pretty much the way that we'd like to build up through the thirds, but where the opportunity presents itself, we should use his strengths as well. And if he makes a run off a defender and a midfielder sees it, instead of playing the sideways pass or the safe option, that risk-free reward pass that might get cut out, might sort of not result in anything, we need to play it. As simple as that. And also, we need to, instead of recycling, waiting for movement in the box when teams get reset, if we get it quickly out to a wide player, he needs to get a cross in, and Gyökeres needs to try and get on the end of that cross, not necessarily in the air, but a low cross in, like what Saka did against Wolves. That's the type of cross I would like to see more of, us play more of, into that corridor of uncertainty between the goalkeeper and the defence, and get him running across it. I think that's quite important. So, I understand his point. It is a valid one, and he obviously doesn't rate Gyökeres, and that's fine. That's his opinion.
That's cool, man. And my last question for Graham then is, why do we think Havertz can play behind Gyökeres? He's not got an eye for a pass. I would say to that, my answer would be, we're not looking at at Kai Havertz to play that pass. We're looking at the Zubis, the inverted left backs, the space is occupied. I don't think we're looking at that part. How would you answer that?
Well, I'd answer that two ways. I think that he's right to a point, but I think the advantage of having Havertz there is you're off the ball shape, because basically he fills that position so that we've got the structure right. If we were to lose the ball, he's one of those players off the ball who understands positioning to actually be in a position to win the ball back. And that's what he's really good at. But also, it's more a case of him being in that left-sided attacking role behind the striker, that once the attack builds up, he can add a presence into the box. It's almost like crash the box as a second attacker. That's the strength he offers that a number 8 can't offer what he can offer. He's very good in the air, and I think he offers that strength. So I understand it. It depends it depends what you want to go with, what tactic you want. Do you want a number 8 who you want to drive into the box? Do you want a number 8 who's going to try and pass inside or whatever? Or do you want a number 8/10 who's going to work off a striker, play as a 2, like a combination, have the ability to crash the box and finish? That's the advantage of playing them together, and also playing someone close to Gyökeres, I think, where they can build a partnership. Whereas I don't think he would have a partnership. The only partnership I've seen him have this season is probably Eze on the right hand side when he played. when he plays at that number 10 position. But I think that's the advantage of it. But I do get the point. It just depends. I think this season, I think it depends if we're away from home, if we're at home, how we want to set up in certain games.
And game states.
Exactly. And so we've got lots of options, and that's the key to actually win games of football.
And that's what we need. Like, for me, my unpopular opinion is I'm not really trying to see Gabriel Jesus play up front at any period. I get it. I'm not against him playing there, deputizing there. I actually think, and Trossard's probably put a spanner in the works because his form's been out of this world. I actually think, if you were to put Gyökeres obviously up front, Gabriel Jesus off the left, you'd get a lot more out of Gyökeres. And then if we just humoured each other and you throw playing potentially Havertz, these are things that you can do in terms of the personnel, folks, that isn't necessarily changing the system and all of those kind of things. End of the day, we've got several players and we're going to need to use all of them. Like, we genuinely are going to need to use all of them. And it's going to be a difficult game at Everton. We've got to let Graham go, though, people. This has been fantastic here with Graham. Graham, where can people find you? Where can they, find the new show that you're back on with AFTV, etc., etc.? It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's Graham Brooks _1. I'm on X. But as you said, I'm back on AFTV at the moment on a new show that we've just started doing. It's not going to be a regular weekly show. It's going to be an occasional show. It's called The Game Plan with Marty Ovens. If you go on YouTube, you can check out the first one. It's not going to be a tactical breakdown of a post-game tactical breakdown, DG, where we analyse the game we've just played. Or in the first show, we looked at 3 tactical segments in 3 games. That was the Spurs game, the Bayern game, and the Chelsea game. But this will be, in fact, the next show, which we'll be doing in the next week and a half sometime, we're going to be analysing that Gyökeres debate, tactically looking at what Gyökeres offers and what the other forwards offer. So it's funny that I've come on the show today talking about that. That's what they want me to look at for the next show. So it's a new show on AFTV. It's an occasional show. The first one's on there now for you to check out. I've just got 2 things to say before I go.
Go ahead.
Always like to have a little dig at Spurs. So
go ahead, man. It's lovely.
Yeah, so my Spurs stat of the day is I've got a Spurs mate of mine who's obviously a massive fan. He's got a season ticket. He pays $2,300 for his season ticket. So in 2025, he's seen 5 home wins. I worked out he's paying £460 a home win at the moment. So I thought that was
the Frank as well.
I thought that was a pretty good stat. Whatever you think. You asked me a question at the start. Where are you with Arsenal now? You can always look at Tottenham to think it'd be far worse.
Put things into perspective, yeah.
And finally, before I go, I just want to big yourself up because I notice you're getting a lot of different platforms now. You're on TalkSport. I think you're brilliant. You're brilliant on that. And I think that everything you do, you talk football so well. I do enjoy watching you on TalkSport, and so big yourself up. I think you're doing great things, and always enjoy coming on your platform. So it's been great today, and I wish you all the best. I wish everybody a happy Christmas, and let's hope that Arsenal can make it a perfect Christmas for us. Yeah.
Like you said, man, happy Christmas and happy New Year's to everyone. Obviously, big up the gentleman. That's Graham. Hopefully, we can get 3 points and not only have a great Christmas, but end the year and then obviously fast forward into May 2026. Graham, it's always a pleasure, man. You're a really interesting man in terms of your footballing points of view, how you articulate yourself. An absolute gentleman and a sweet guy to have here. So, Unks, appreciate you. Before I let you go, I know you said the AFTV videos are not coming out weekly, but when they do come out, is there a certain day and time just to keep people in the loop?
At the moment, the recording is all over the place. So I can't really give everybody an answer on that. I think we're going to record one in the next week sometime, but we haven't got a date nailed down yet. I think if people could just keep looking on the AFTV, either on
socials, man. You're definitely going
to put it it'll be on socials. I put some. The thing is, when on my socials, on the last show, I put a thing on there where I was breaking down the way we played round Tottenham's back 5. I put that on there, so you can always find it on my X account. The other thing really is just to look on the AFTV YouTube channel, or check it out on Instagram or on their post on there. But at the moment, it's not a regular show. The one I did with James Bayliss was a weekly show.
That was sick.
This is only going to be. This is just going to be a. This is just going to be every few weeks. It's basically not a post-match tactical breakdown. It's just a It's basically looking at tactical points about Arsenal, which, you know, can be anything. It can be from looking at a set of games. We're even talking about, he wants me to break down games from the past. So basically, for example, the 88-89 winner when we won at Anfield in the last minute.
We need that. I'm only 30. I need this.
So they're calling it games from the vault, where we look back and we tactically break down, say, 1 or 2 great games from Arsenal's past. Then there's going to be like tactical things, you know, looking at say partnerships in the team. The front line is the next topic they're going to be doing. So that one's going to be coming out, I think, before Christmas, and that will be on Gyökeres. Gyökeres is part of that. So if everybody who's interested in Gyökeres, whether you like Gyökeres or don't like Gyökeres, I would look out for that and see whether you agree with what we come out with on that. But, you know, just one thing, you know, I think tactically, of all the guys I know, you are up there, I would say, in the top 2 of the tactical knowledge. And it's something that and I've said this to you before, but I never know. I'm not in control of AFTV, and they decide what they do. And I know you've been on the channel, but you would, if you ever, they should use your knowledge on tactical knowledge on the channel, because you are, you know, I admire and respect you. And there's 2 or 3 people on this platform I watch. You know, we mentioned Clive Palmer, he's the best. But there's people like yourself who I admire and respect. Harvey Gratian, people like that. Who are just,
as well.
Yeah, they are so good at what they do. But you're up there, DG, and I think that as you continue on your journey, I'm pretty sure you're going to get even more exposure.
You're far too kind, man. Far too kind.
But you are, you know, it sounds like there's a love in between us, but you know I do respect you and admire you. So, look, we'll leave on that before. But you know, your subscribers are so lucky to have you, I'll tell you, because I do watch it.
I'm lucky to have them, because without them, there's no platform, there's no exposure, there's no actually, you know, being on AFTV once upon a time with you. There's no there'd be not me and you could easily just be talking on WhatsApp. Like they wouldn't. I care about what you want to say, and vice versa, but like they care what we got to say. So. It's always a pleasure, man. But it's
great that, you know, I noticed you always get the good people on your platform. You had Clive on the other week.
Yeah.
You've got Harry Simmer. I used to work with Harry Simmer and Same Old Arsenal. You got your people like your Dan Pottses. You get all the good people coming to your channel, and that's a good reason, because people want to talk and listen to you talk about football and talk football with you. So big yourself up and keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully we'll do it again in a few weeks.
100%, man. You know I'm always texting you, so we'll make it happen. So yeah, people, follow Graham on his socials. When his stuff's out, his stuff's out. The stuff that is out, head over to AFTV and check that out. Graham, let me let you get on with your evening, man, or afternoon, better yet. Now, let me let you.
Well, I'm glad we're getting off now, because I've got to put some more coins in the meter, DJ. So.
Oh, it's a good thing. Let's go, man.
I'll have to do it somewhere different next time, mate. All right.
In a bit, my guy.
Take care, mate. All the best. Take care. All the best.